Hello, Realtors. Today is Thursday, July 11th, 2024. Putting the date on this because we're getting closer and closer to that August 17th deadline of the great changes coming to real estate. So the question that keeps on coming up, no matter how many videos I do, uh, is that there's still agents worried, buyers agents worried about getting paid commissions if this buyer doesn't want or can't pay the commissions. And they're worried that will or if the seller will pay a commission. And I explained to them, you and your buyer could force the seller to pay. You have control. So let me go back and explain the steps. I think a lot of this, I think a lot of this is because, sorry, I want to give you a little theory behind this. Is in real estate, we as realtors have seen over and over and over on a daily basis, we see buyers and sellers and with their agents and themselves break contracts every day. They put flat out, black and white, in writing, we agree to this, and people renegotiate all the time. They just said, no, I'm not doing that, right? In real estate, I think it's probably, I don't have this, is one of the things that contracts and agreements are not ever 100% in stone until it's closed, right? Any agent that's been in this business long enough, we see people break contracts and agreements every day. It's just a piece of paper, just could be blown in the wind. No one makes people accountable. I've seen it 30 some years in real estate, almost on a daily basis. We get to contracts, buyers and sellers, and close to the closing, and someone wants to back out, someone wants to change something, and agents call me and goes, can they do that? And I say this, can they do that? They can. What do you mean they can? They can't, like the buyer wants to back out now. It's at the end of close. Can they do that? Yeah, they can. What do I mean by can? What do you mean by can? They can't. They have a contract. Oh yeah, they have a contract. It goes kind of like speeding. Can you speed? Yes. Are you supposed to? No. Do you speed? Can you speed and not get caught, not get fined, and have no consequences? Yes. Most people, most thing every day right now, people are speeding more than they're getting tickets, getting caught, and they still do it. Same with contracts. You have a contract with, say in the state of Ohio, when you get your driver's license, you're going to obey all traffic laws. Do you? You don't. And do you have consequences to that? No, 99% of the time, no, but you get a ticket every now and then. And then you have consequences. Same with real estate. As buyers and sellers get to closing, they do this, and I don't want to honor that, right? They don't want to honor it. And as realtors, when I go through this, what I'm about to go through again, they just still don't see the urgency. I mean, they don't see the in stone, that it's in writing, it's agreed to, and it has to happen, right? So let me go back. So you have a buyer. You have a buyer sitting in front of a buyer right now. Say, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, let's start looking for houses. This is my buyer's agreement. This is what I charge. This is what I want to earn to help you. And these are all the things I'm going to do for it. Yada, yada, yada. I'm going to do everything. And you get to decide who's going to pay me. Who do you want to pay me? Do you want to pay me? No, we don't want to pay you. We want to save our money. We don't have the money, whatever reason. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, no problem. We could write in our agreement, me and you, we're going to agree in our agreement that we're going to make sure the seller pays me. That's it. Simple. I don't care. I'm saying this, and this is my disclaimer, my legal opinion. Because I talk to brokers almost on a daily basis, like, we can't do it. Yes, we can. We could put anything in an agreement. Me and us and the buyer. We could say, Tony, I don't want to put in the agreement Tony's going to make sure I don't buy a house unless the house is purple. And I'll go, if we put that in agreement, I have to go find you a house that's purple, or I have to paint it purple myself for you to buy a house from me. Put it, Tony, we both agree that I'm not going to buy a house unless it's purple. Done. It's in an agreement. We agreed. It's in stone. Now you and the buyer sit there. My buyer says to me, Tony, I don't want to pay you. No problem. Let's put in our agreement that we both will make sure the seller pays my compensation. Done. In stone. We are on a team. We're going to work for a team. We're going to go to every house that we're going to show and put an offer on. I, as a buyer's agent, going to explain to the listing agent, hey, listing agent, by the way, I have an agreement with my buyer. My buyer and I both agree when they buy a house, seller will pay. Excuse my phone there. So that's it. It's in stone. It's non-negotiable. We have a contract. Me and my buyer agreed. We won't buy, as agent, buyer, will not buy a house unless the seller pays me. Done. In stone. Drop the mic. You talk to the listing agent. Just want to let you know, mostly the buyer, we have an agreement. The buyer can't finalize this contract with the seller per my agreement that we have way before we saw this listing. Seller has to pay me or you can't have my buyer. My buyer can't buy your house. Done. That's how serious it is. But when I talk to agents every day, I've been doing this for months. They go, but what if? I'm like, there is no what if. We have a contract. It's in stone. It's a non-negotiable. But we see it. They know contracts are worth just the paper they're written on. They know the people that write these offers, write the buyers, the sellers, they're just as good as their word. And then when someone doesn't honor their word, now what? That's all I hear. But what if? But what if? There is no what if. There shouldn't be a what if, and you are going to allow it. So basically, little training. You go into a listing agent says, hey, by the way, respectfully, listing agent, respectfully, I have this agreement. Please don't come back at a counter offer trying to lower my commission. Please don't. Respectfully, honorably, because I have this conversation. I won't do that to you. I promise. What do you mean that you won't do that to me? The buyer has a right to just say, I want to see your commission. If you want me as a buyer seller, I want to see what you're paying your agent. Can a buyer do that? My legal opinion, I'm not an attorney. Yes, they can. Why not? Why not? If they could see what we're getting paid, why can't we see what listing? If the buyer wants it, why can't we? The buyer wants to make sure you're selling your house for this. They want to make sure they're not paying you 20% commission and way overpaying for this house because you're making 20%. They want to see your commission. Why are we hiding the listing agent's commission and the buyer's out there for transparency? So that's what I'm saying. Listing agent, be respectful, be honorable. We put it in writing. I even say non-negotiable. Talk to your buyer. It's between you and your buyer. Do we want to write in there? You could even put that in your buyer's agreement. Buyers request agent to include their compensation and seller must pay commission. Buyer gives authorization to agent to put in non-negotiable in quotations on every offer. Done. Can you do that? Yes. Yes, you can. It's an agreement between you and your client for your services. It's a two-way street, and you're both going to put your name on it. Can you do that? Yes, you can. If anybody's telling me, again, I'm not an attorney, it's my legal opinion. I'm 99.9% there. Can you do that? Yes. Don't let any agent or other broker or some thing you heard on the internet that you can't do that. Yes, you can. The buyer can say, Tony, any of my buyers say, Tony, I will not buy a house without making sure the seller compensates you because I'm not paying it out of my pocket. I want to include it in the sale. Yes. And what do? You keep on going. You keep on going. So you say this to the listing agent. This is serious in the nicest way possible. Just want to let you know this is in stone. This is serious. If your seller comes back trying to cut out my commission on there, the buyer's just, I don't know what the buyer's going to do, but they can just walk away and go to the next. They're not going to play this game with the seller. It's that serious. We've already have an agreement. You would be going against our agreement, and then the buyer would that, and they won't do it. Just come back with an offer with the way it's written, or counter it somewhere else, because that is non-negotiable. You can even put in your agreement, just throwing out there, that the buyer gives you the authorization to show that buyer agreement to the seller. If they want to know, it's that serious. We have an agreement. It's there. Just saying it can be done. Yes. Should it be done? Different question. But some people are just going, oh, no, it's always negotiable. Are commissions negotiable? Yes. Yes, they always have been and always will be. But can you put in can you put an agreement that they're non-negotiable? Yes, you could do that too. That's what you're doing. That's why. That's the number one thing. Number one thing, there's a few things, but the number one thing why I love this change. At the beginning of your relationship with your buyers, you're going to sign an agreement guaranteeing what you're going to get paid. Done. Over with. Guaranteed. It's in the contract. But what if, Tony? Don't let the what ifs happen. Don't let the what ifs happen. And you just say, well, what if we have a seller and a buyer and they can't agree? You go to your buyer and go, hey, we have an agreement already. Sorry. What do you want to do? Do you want to pay me? You want to have someone write me a check? How am I going to get compensated here? So many times our buyers agents are thinking they're low on the totem pole, that their time and money are the ones that are most played around with and negotiated. When you got the listing agent on the other side, and we're listing agents a lot of times, sitting there like in their high horse going, hey, my commission is in stone. We have a listing agreement. What's the difference between a listing agreement and a buyer's agreement? Nothing. They're two agreements. But who blinks the most? I know you're saying it. Who blinks the most? It's the buyer's agent. They blink the most because we in our industry have gotten to the point that for some reason we think the listing agreement is more sacred than a buyer's agreement. I'm telling you, you know why? Is because it's been such a seller's market, and the sellers and the listing agents been in more control because they have what more people want. They have the listing. There's a lot of these buyers that want these listings, and these buyers agents want that sale, and they're doing it. It's going to flip someday, and that's why we're in this position now, which I love, because someday, I quote you, is that there's going to be buyers and there's going to be more listings than buyers. And the buyers are going to ask for the star and the moon. And guess what? There's going to be listing agents, buyer's agents that raise their costs in a buyer's market, 1%, 2%, whatever. I'm not even throwing anything out. They're going to raise their costs. Why? Because you got the golden buyer. You got the golden buyer. And guess what? There's so many houses for sale. You're going to have to keep showing and showing. I used to tell agents stories about, there's so many houses on the market. I used to have to run out there, show them as many houses as possible, get them under an agreement, because if they, this is what I hated when the internet started getting popular with people searching for houses when it was a buyer's market, because they would go, hey, we see all these houses. Okay, I think I'm going to narrow it down. And all of a sudden, boom, they go home and they go online to some website at the time before realtor.com or whatever. Oh, we see 2 new listings that came up. We want to go see those tomorrow. It was like going to a restaurant with a huge menu, and then every 2 minutes they're coming out with specials, and every time the server came to take the order. Oh, by the way, we got 2 more specials. Oh, what are they? Let me think about it. And then they come back. I think I know what I want. Oh, wait, there's 2 more specials. Oh, there are. Let me think about it. That's how it used to be. Sorry if I'm talking fast, but someday there's gonna be buyer's agents go boop, and the buyer's agents are gonna make more money than the listing agents. And then the sellers are going to go start shopping listing agents, and listing agents are going to be taking lowering their commissions because there's so many houses in the market, and it's going to flip. And the buyer's agents are going to make way more money than the listing agents, because the buyer's agent's going to go, hey, your seller's paying my agent X amount. I want to make sure the seller is not paying their agent too much money, and I'm paying as a house is paying total of X% after paying both sides, because my buyer's agent has a premium, and I want to lower the listing agent's commission. So that's what I wanted to see. Let me clarify what the thought process I'm thinking can happen in the future is we as an industry with our buyers and sellers go around saying, hey, I'm a seller. Say I'm a seller. And I start playing around with the buyer's agent's commission, trying to get them down and go against their agreement they have with their buyer already, and saying, I'm going to, even though you say it's not negotiable, try to negotiate that down. Someday, seller, you're going to be on the buyer's side, or you're going to be on the seller side someday, and a buyer's agent's going to do the same thing to you. Pay me more. You're not going to have this buyer. Not that they're saying the buyer's saying that. The buyer's saying, you're not having me unless you pay my agent this, because that agent's been working for me 6 months. We've seen 150 houses. He's missed his kids' birthday parties in the last 2 years, and all this stuff. I want you to pay my agent this absorbent amount because we agreed to that. I'm okay with that. I want you to pay it. Can the buyer do that? Yes. So the point is, everybody's going to have an agreement. We all need to let everybody know we have to honor it, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Is if a buyer and a buyer's agent have an agreement and they come to the seller, honor that agreement, honor it, respect it. Don't, can you try to negotiate? Fine. Try to, if you want to negotiate. No, but when they come, don't get upset by it, because it's in stone. It's already agreed to, just like your listing agent. And listing agent, honor that, because the buyer and buyer's agent are going to honor your agreement. They're not going to start negotiating your commission either. It's honoring the agreements. When a buyer and buyer's agent come to you saying, I have an agreement, we've already put it in here. The only houses they're going to buy is where a seller pays it. It's in our agreement. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't. So that's what I try to explain to. Can a buyer, so the whole point of this, the topic of this video, can a buyer force a seller to pay their agent? Yes. If the buyer says, you can't have me as a buyer unless you pay my agent, can a buyer do that? Yes. Of course. Anybody thinks otherwise, it's wrong. It's just like anything else. If a buyer says, I'm not buying a house unless this happens, I'm not buying a house unless it is violation free of point of sale violations, right? Can they do that? Hey, buyer's agent, go find me a house that's violation free, or make sure the seller does all the violations, or I'm not buying it. Hey, buyer's agent, go find me a house that the seller is going to pay you your percentage, because I don't want to pay you out of my pocket. Same thing. Same thing. Hey, buyer's agent, my lender says I need 3% for seller concessions or I can't get the loan. Buyer's agent, what are you going to do? Go find them. Hey, by the way, listing agent, will your seller pay seller concessions? No, they won't. Sorry, got to go to next house. And then the listing agent, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm like, you said we won't, but they have to. They need 3% seller concessions. Will your seller pay? How? And then I would say, of course, as a buyer's agent, to the listing agent, how do you know? How does your seller know they won't pay 3%? They didn't even see my offer. They don't even know how much it is. So that kind of thing is borderline unethical for me. If you as an agent can't explain to a seller, I don't want this, if it's money related, just money related, like I don't want to pay any of buyer's closing costs. I don't want to pay for a buyer's agent. I don't want to give them money for repairs. I don't want to give them anything. Borderline, it's 100% to me unprofessional, borderline unethical to not do a good enough job explaining to sellers that that is not in your best interest. You don't know yet. I could totally understand if you see the offer, this is what they're offering for your house. The price is this. You want to net this. You want this, this, this. And then they ask you, go, I'm absolutely not paying closing costs, not giving you money for repairs, not paying your buyers. They totally understand. I get it. Say no, 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 or raise the price to a price that's agreeable to you to do those things. But for an agent not to be able to explain to a seller that why it's in their best interest is just totally unprofessional, not knowing how to explain things of what's in their best interest, and unethical that you just let it happen without an explanation, at least without an explanation. Okay, I'll write it in their agreement, no closing costs, no nothing. How do you know? That's going to limit the buyers you have. It's going to limit, just like we've been saying with offering buyers agents commissions. So to agents out there, any public that sees this, I know this, or something really great that happened. I said this one of my other videos, and well, in our MLS in Northeast Ohio, I don't know if they're doing it in any other ones yet, but this one first that they're having a checkbox in the listing. So to notify the buyer's agents without even asking, the seller is open to paying buyer concessions, to paying things for buyers, closing costs, other things. It's just general. They're open to paying something for something. I don't know the exact verbiage. They just said this. I haven't seen it, but it's just saying the seller's open to paying things. Doesn't say an amount or what. So basically it's saying this is the seller's open to pay some for stuff with an acceptable offer. Closing costs, agents, repairs, paint the house purple, whatever. It's just listing agent seller saying to the public, we're open to giving you some money to help with whatever. It's the best thing ever. At least you know the sellers is. If I see sellers out there, and it might have some of our sellers do that, I'm really pushing our agents to explain to sellers that, not going to say we won't take a listing if a seller says, I'm absolutely not this, but we have to explain to them in our listing agreements, not without opening up the hood. We're going to have verbiage in there that explains to sellers that we really feel they should be open to any offers from anybody, from anywhere, to see what they all entail. Now, financing is a different story because you might have a house that needs total work or whatever, and you're just putting conventional or cash or just cash or stuff, because that should be more along the lines of condition of home, and will it even be approved that it was certain financing. But other than that, everybody should be open to putting in an offer of whatever it is, and the seller make the decision. So I'm hoping that listing agents understand this, that listen, I'm hoping that buyers and listing agent or buyers agents don't have to feel like I have to call listing agents just to feel them out before they put in an offer. I'm pushing for our listings. They're all open. They're all open. I hope so. I'm going to push as hard as we can as a company that our sellers are going to be open to seeing any offer and making the decision there. Not saying their sellers will pay a buyer's commission because that's all negotiable with an offer. But I'm hoping that they all, we're going to be pushing as a company, they all will be open to viewing. And remember, buyer's agents, you are the ones that have to fight for your commissions. You have to explain to your buyer before you go see houses who's going to pay you, and they have it in stone. And then present your offer. And you should have no fear. You really should have no fear. You have a buyer's agreement, no fear, but we do. Why do we have a little bit of fear? Because we know people don't honor contracts sometimes. That's it. It happens sometimes, but you gotta know that you at least have that contract with that buyer, and hopefully you have a buyer that will honor that contract. You're going to honor that contract and try to convince sellers and listing agents to honor that contract. So hopefully that made some sense. I know these always go long because I could talk forever, but I do all day long, every day with agents, and will continue. And I use these words lightly. I can't wait till this change is made so we can implement all this and everybody implements it. But I know it's going to get frustrating. It's going to get frustrating because there's going to be agents out there that just don't understand the things that I'm saying, are not prepared for it, and they're not ready for it. Because I'm talking to brokers and managers, great people at other companies that are totally on the opposite page. They don't even understand this. Actually, just want to give you, I'm all across the country. Actually, talk to an agent. I have a friend of mine selling a house in South Carolina, and their agent down there, and they're listing their house. I'm going through all of this with them, and this agent was clueless. Like, no, this is, I've never even heard of this. I know the change is coming, but this is, no, it's not how we do it down here. So it happened. I know it's going to be all over, it's different everywhere, but listen to me. Because if everybody, I really do feel that if everybody will be better off, every buyer's agent will be better off, every listing agent will be better off, every buyer will be better off, every seller will be better off. We're all under agreement. We're all on our agreements. And we all make sure it happens. Everybody gets paid. Everybody does a good job, and everybody's happy because everybody got to negotiate those amounts when you list the house, when you start working with a buyer, and when you bring them together, it's all agreed to and on contracts, and it should be no problem. Will it be problems? Yes. Should it be no problem? No. Now I'm done. Have a good Thursday. Let me know if you need anything. Doesn't matter where you're from. Go to my website, go to my calendar, tonytalk.net. Get on my calendar, write on there exactly what you want to talk about. So I'm ready and prepared and happy to help you. All right. Bye bye.